Gonna do our normal wrap-up from last week. I know this is about the game this Saturday, but want to kind of put the last week to bed. Offensive Player of the Week, Chris Lewis for us. Defensive Player of the Week, Chris Rogers and Buda Jones. Special Teams Player of the Week, Devontae Ross. Defensive Job Taker of the Week, Anthony Butler. Offensive Job Taker of the Week, Jackson Thomas. Special Teams Job Taker of the Week was Alex, don't call me Johnny Cash. All right. Nathan Harris, John Johnson Service Award, Scott Taylor Renfro. Corey McCullough Spirit Award was Malachi Pagese. And the Workout Warrior of the Week was Jaden Palm. So wanted to make sure that we do that our normal flow for you guys that cover us week in, week out. Didn't want to skip last week's Players of the Week. Excited about the opportunity to host the conference championship against a really quality football team in App State. They're playing, I think, their best football of the year the last 4 or 5 weeks. They've really caught fire. They're playing really good defensively. It looks like a different team the last month or so from the first part of the year with how they're playing on defense. They're fast. They're creating a lot of negative plays in the line of scrimmage, TFLs, and they're leading our conference in takeaways right now. So they're getting people to turn the ball over and creating negative plays at the line of scrimmage. Offensively, they're very versatile, have a lot of weapons. They're good at running back. Their O-line's as good as anybody we've played all year. The quarterback's dynamic. The receivers, that group is deep. The tight end group is really good. Their entire offense is capable. And then they're really sound in the kicking game. They do a good job schematically in the kicking game, and they play really clean there. So got our work cut out for us. Excited about being here at home. One other thing I would like to announce, it is V Week with ESPN. Adam brought that to my attention last night, and I do want to bring some attention to Josh Boutwell, who's on this call. We were 51% to the goal of what we were trying to raise through Trojans Together, the collective that is here at Troy. Man, we need to get that, like, as part of championship week, let's get that to 100%. Like, Troy Trojans, I'm gonna go back and do it again. Like, I challenge everybody, whatever you gave the first time, do it one more time. As we go through V Week to help with Josh during his fight. So that's important to us here. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
And Coach, we'll start off with Craig Stevenson.
Hey, Coach, the Hail Mary against them last year, obviously it's a different year and a different team and all that, but just can you kind of take me back to the emotions of that moment and the way you used that to bounce back in similar fashion to losing early in the year this year?
Yeah, it sucked. I was hurt for our kids deeply. I'll never forget it. It'll be, I think as a coach, you remember some of the losses really as much as you do some of the wins sometimes. And for our kids, they had poured so much into the changes we had brought about. We had asked them to do some things that were uncomfortable for them, and we were 1-1 going into that game. And for 59 minutes and 58 seconds, we played a really good game, and then we didn't play one play at the end very well. And I just tried to remind them, how far we had come and how far we had grown as a team, and that while we did not get the tangible result of a victory, that there was growth and there was change that had occurred. And, it's never okay to lose. Like, I don't ever feel good about losing, but I saw growth in a loss in that moment. And really what I talked to our team about in that moment was that loss or that play would not define us. How we responded to it would. And I think you've seen our response. I think since that game, I don't know the exact numbers, but we're like 20-2 or something like that. We're 21-2 is what Adam's telling me. So since that loss, our guys, that shows you that they've had the right response. And it shows you the character in our locker room. And so it is kind of a full circle moment to go back, and get to play these guys. They're really good, man. I think they're a better team by a lot than they were last year in so many areas. But yeah, it is neat to see how we've come full circle a little bit in the last 2 years.
When you saw that you were playing them, is it one of those where, man, I hope we get another shot at those guys sometime, and now you got it, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you worry about what you can control, and I'm not trying to give you coach speak, but like I don't go, oh, I want revenge or I want another shot at these guys. Like I just want our guys to play good football, and whoever's in front of us, we're going to play them. And it just happens to be a team that we have a little bit of history with that, is a good football team. So there's been zero desire for me to figure out how do we pencil in who could we play from the other side based upon rematch or revenge or any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to John with the Associated Press.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Good morning. You seem to have kind of mastered the formula. I know you'll play some tough opponents in early season, but of getting better as the season goes along, and especially it seems like this year defensively. Has your team improved that much since first 2-3 games, and what's kind of been the key to that?
Yeah, I think there's been improvement. I've felt like the last couple weeks we were at times in certain areas stagnant. I've challenged our staff and our players to make sure you continue to grow. The biggest thing that, as a coach, that you get scared of is like complacency is a killer. And, we clinched our side of the conference a couple of weeks ago, and my biggest concern has been our guys relaxing, and not continuing to press on and worry about daily improvement. I think we have in some regards. I think we've come up short in some areas where I feel like we could still grow a lot, but I have been proud of the guys' focus. We haven't, quote unquote, laid an egg, if you will. We haven't relaxed. They've continued to be emotionally invested and pushed into the process of getting better. There's still some things that we did not do well the last couple of games. I think we've got a lot left out there to play for in regards to how we play the game.
And how has the defense been playing, especially 20 sacks in the last 3 games? I mean, how have those guys been performing?
Yeah, when we get people to the obvious pass situations, we got good pass rushers. Richard Jubinor, Javon Solomon, Buddha at nose, T.J. Jackson is kind of an afterthought almost, it seems like, this year. And last year was probably the sack, led the league in sacks and TFLs, and this year he's been like the 4th or 5th guy. Raymond Cutts has been in there. Malachi Pegues, he's a true freshman from Mississippi who had a sack and a half last week. Chris Rogers is a true freshman from Mississippi that had a half a sack last week. So we've had some young guys getting in on the action too. So we've got good pass rushers. When we get people in the obvious pass situations, it allows you to do some things schematically that are different. It also allows guys to pin their ears back a little bit more. But we've definitely been rushing the passer better as the year's gone. We've gotten people into more predictable pass situations too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Alvaro Torres with No Huddle.
Hi, Coach Sumrall. First, congratulations on the division title and the championship game berth. And second, my first question is it fair to call the matchup between your defense and Appalachian State's offense the best that this conference has to offer? And what stands out the most to you about it?
Yeah, I think our defense has been pretty good for the last couple of years, and I think without question, when I look at their offense, they're extremely balanced and they're multiple, and they've got guys at different positions. Sometimes you go into a game and defensively you try to figure out who is the guy you have to stop, or maybe what is the thing they do that you have to stop. What's impressive about them is they have multiple guys that can go make plays, and they can beat you in multiple ways. They can beat you around the ball. They can beat you with the run actions and shots. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. They can beat you at receiver, at tight end, at running back. Their O-line's really good, and their quarterback is a dude. So, I mean, I think they have the ability to they're multiple and they're versatile, and I think they're very challenging to defend. And so I do think when our defense is on the field and their offense on the field, I think there'll be a lot of really good football players. They're well coached, and it'll be fun to watch.
Well, Appalachian State has made it to the conference title game 4 out of 6 times, and you hosted the last 2. Do you feel like the 2 best programs in the conference will be facing off on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's 2 really good football teams that App's been the class of the league they've probably been the most consistent program in our league over the last 6-7 years. I think I look back, they haven't had a losing season, I believe, since like 11 years ago. So they've been really, really good and really consistent. And so I think you got two great teams that are going to play.
Well, my last questions, and you are talking about consistency. What would you say has been the main reason for Appalachian State being on a 5-game winning streak after starting the season with three wins and 4 losses?
Yeah, they changed up personnel a little bit on defense with how they're playing at nickel to the field in particular. They're playing with a little bit faster grouping as opposed to a bigger grouping. Like their nose is not a big guy, but he's super athletic and quick. They're nickel to the field. They're playing smaller there than they started the year. They were playing with more of a linebacker body earlier in the year. Now they're playing with a lighter guy. That's helped them. And I think they've offensively just found their groove. And they're really good at what they do. They know who they are, and they know what they do well, and they stick to things they do really well. And I think when you do things well over and over and over again, that creates consistency.
Thank you for your time, Coach, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Go over to Nick Brooks. Nick.
Hey, Coach. Congrats on officially hosting the Sun Belt Conference Championship. Just talk about excitement for this team, after the game on Saturday, knowing that they will be back into that on Saturday, especially with this big group of seniors. And also, I know you kind of touched a little bit on it at App State, but I know some of these players are going to want to get back at App State for obviously last season, so maybe some of their emotions as well.
Yeah, I think, playing in our home stadium, that being the venue, is a big deal. Playing in a championship game is a really big deal. This game has very little to do with last year's game versus them. And so I think that, can you use it to maybe help you focus? Yeah, you can also you got to be careful to not be overly emotional about, something that happened last year. And you've got to really just be in the moment and be where your feet are to be the best you can be for this year's game. And I don't know that, is there something there to talk about in regards to how the game finished last year? Sure. But is that the focus? No, I don't think so. I mean, I think if that's where your focus is, then we talk a lot, like I said just then, be where your feet are. Like anytime you live in the past, all right, you're either going to live in regret or comfort. Because you're either going to feel real comfortable about what you did, or you're going to regret what happened. Anytime you live in the future, a lot of times you live in anxiety or worry or concern about stuff. I just want our guys to be where our feet are and prepare the right way all week. Focus on the things that set you up for success this week and this game, and then go play well on Saturday.
I'll go over to John Johnson.
Hey, John, we look back at last year's App State game, but the same sort of thing happened with the JMU loss. How much do you think last year's game helped with going forward this year after y'all did drop the JMU game?
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels there, John. I think that's a good point. I've brought it up with our staff and our team some. We started 1-2 in the 2022 season and lost a heartbreaker. We started 1-2 this year and lost a heartbreaker in Game 3. Both of them were – Game 3 were both conference games. Our first conference game, you start 0-1 in conference and 1-2 overall. Not ideal. I think it showed the group's resiliency, their character. I think when you've been there before and you've done it, it gives you confidence. I sometimes like to say the best indicator for future success sometimes is past success. And so when you've been somewhere and you've seen that you can do it, it makes you more confident you can do it again. And I believe that last year's experience, the guys were a part of starting the year the way we started, and the response gave this team maybe a little bit more confidence in what that response could look like.
And one more question. We get to talk to a couple of players here in a few minutes. A.J. Pierce is one of them. He's a guy that's been around a long time. Can you talk about what he brings as far as the leadership quality of some of the other guys that will be playing, their last game Saturday at the vet?
Yeah, AJ's a great kid. When I got here, and AJ would tell you this, I told AJ on senior day, I said, man, you've grown as much as any person in our program. Adam Prendergrass over here shaking his head real strongly in agreement. AJ has got all the talent in the world. He's very intelligent. He's a sharp, well-spoken kid. I think when we got here, he wasn't maximizing his ability with how he pushed himself daily. I think he was maybe living a little bit in comfort and convenience instead of pushing himself to be his best and making the standard of how he did things extremely high day in, day out. He is a guy that, man, has come a long way. I don't want to say a complete 180 because he was already a really good person, but I think his standard of work, his attention to detail, his team-first mindset, all that has grown so much since when we first got here. And that's been like, the wins are awesome. Like, I want to win every game we play, but that's a win. Like, you see a guy who I don't know what he's going to do next career-wise in life, but I know he's going to be a great employee. I know he's going to be a great husband, a great father, because he's learned how to do everything the right way. And like we say a lot, how you do anything is how you do everything. Better people make better players. Well, it's no coincidence that AJ's become a better player as he's become a better person in regards to how he does everything in life. And so very proud of him. Very, very proud of him. We talk in our program a lot about, there's milkshakes, which are encouragement. There's medicine, which is correction. And there's water, which is what you need every day. He's taken the medicine well. He's learned to take the medicine. And he's taken the correction and really embraced the feedback that he was given to how to grow. So proud of him.
All right, we'll go over to Josh.
Hey, Coach. First off, I want to say I appreciate you. A few minutes ago, you said that there was a lot of things that still didn't feel guys did well the last few weeks. What are those things you guys are kind of working on heading into the championship game?
Yeah, we turned the ball over at receiver last week one time that I was not pleased with. I thought we didn't catch the ball very well a couple weeks ago. I thought on defense we didn't leverage the ball very well at times out on the perimeter. I thought our tackling left something to be desired after last week's game. I think our effort's been good, but I just think there's some technique and fundamental things that we still have room to grow and improve upon. And you're never done growing. As soon as you think you're fully arrived or fully developed, you're going to be exposed. And so just continuing to find ways to improve on little things that you can improve upon. This late in the year, you can still get better. It's not like you're just done. And so there's a lot of things for us football fundamental-wise that we can grow on.
Go over to Joseph. Joseph.
Hey, Coach. If you already answered a question like this, I apologize. But earlier in the year, you were trying to get your team to win more battles at the line of scrimmage and play more physical up front. Given that Coach Clark is someone who takes a lot of pride in getting his team to do the same thing, how are you guys preparing for your front seven against their front seven and vice versa?
Yeah, it's a good question. Early in the year, like you said, I didn't think we were playing very good, in particular on offense at the line of scrimmage. We've made significant strides there. Our sacks allowed and TFLs allowed has dropped tremendously. The first 3 games, we were one of the worst teams in the country. TFLs allowed. The last several weeks, we've improved and become one of the better teams in the country, and TFLs allowed. Some of that's by personnel improvement. Some of that's by maybe how we're calling the game or scheming some things up a little bit differently. App's done a great job. They're one of the best teams in all of college football in tackles for loss. So that is something we have to be aware of. They're really twitchy up front. And then on the O-line, Sean, I love Sean to death, man. He's a good friend, and he's an O-line guy, an O-line coach, and they play the game the right way at the line of scrimmage offensively. Our D-line and our box players got to play behind their pads and be physical and bring it when they come to contact. And so they do a good job of getting you moving and outside zone, wide zone stuff, kind of stretching you and then banging something downhill when they widen you on the front side. We've got to make sure the ball is staying moving lateral, not vertical.
In that sense, I guess, with Gunner's development, we've talked a lot about seeing him grow this season. In this last, stretch of the season in particular, where you guys have rattled off X amount of wins, what's something that you still would like to see him do a little bit better in these last 2 games you guys got?
Yeah, maybe anticipate a couple different things from coverage standpoint. He missed 2 open guys last week. We didn't get the ball to him. We had a post that was wide open, and we had a seam that was wide open. The post would have been a touchdown, and he knows it. the best thing about Gunner is, like, I think it's 10:50 now, but I came down here at about 10:25. From about 8 to 11 every day, I know where Gunner's going to be. He's getting his master's right now in football, and so he is spending a ton of time in preparation, and that's been the result of him taking care of the football better and playing cleaner. But I think maybe just continuing to see some things or anticipate some things to touch faster is an area where he knows he could improve, and missed a couple of things last week. But you're never going to play perfect at that position. But, man, he's made tremendous strides and played winning football the last several weeks, which has been fun to watch.
And last one from me. You mentioned the verbiage of milkshakes versus medicine versus water. Can you talk a little bit about, like, where that came from? I've just never heard that specific, verbiage when coaching.
Well, we use a lot of analogies in our program, and we're very detailed in our leadership stuff and our culture stuff and our core values. And it's just an analogy I use with our guys all the time that, hey, encouragement or like pats on the back are like milkshakes. You need those. Like, we all deserve a milkshake every now and then. You know what I mean? And then sometimes you need medicine when you're sick or you don't feel good. You need that too. That's correction. But for us, water is like the standard of how you live. It's the core values of how you do life. It's what you're about, and you almost can't get enough of that. Like, I don't know if I've ever been a day in my life where I've looked at anybody and just said, man, I'm just too hydrated today. And so I can't get enough of doing the ordinary routine things really, really well. If you do that and you live like that consistently, I believe good things happen over time, not always overnight, but over time. And so we use that analogy, and it makes sense to some people. It may not, but to me it makes a lot of sense that water is the most important thing.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
All right, we'll go to Chris Benini with The Athletic.
Hey, Coach, I'm in my car, so I hope you can hear me. You mentioned complacency earlier. I mean, going back-to-back as champions is tough. How did you see the team just kind of respond in the offseason after having had such a great year to come back and have a year like they've had this year?
Yeah, the offseason was solid. We had more unknowns. Last year's team, I had a lot of knowns. Like, I didn't know how good we could be, but I had a lot of knowns in regards to people and what they were about. This year we had a lot of new faces that were added to the fold. I think we have 60-something new guys on this year's team. I think that's what college football is now, and you get every team so different. And I was talking to our staff yesterday about, hey, when we restart in January, we're going to restart like everything's brand new again. Like, we've never even met the guys on the team before. So I think each year you have to just completely start over and take things like the guys have never heard them, because you are going to have 50 new guys, it feels like, every year. This team is very different than last year's team. This year's team is probably more talented. Last year's team was more calloused and more seasoned. My biggest concern on this year's team coming into the year was, were we tough enough? Were we gritty enough? Do we have enough character? Was our intestinal fortitude there to find a way through adversity? And then where I all of a sudden, there's moments where you're like, all right, we've got a chance. We lost to JMU, and then we came back at home and played a really good Western Kentucky team on an early morning Saturday kick a week later, and we won that game. And then we played Georgia State the next week on the road, who was undefeated at the time, and we went and won that game. And I started to see our guys' response to maybe something that didn't go good again. And so every team's different. You try to create the same standards and same just rituals and routines, but it's getting guys that are new to buy into, this is how we have success here. This is what success looks like. It's hard work. It's toughness. It's discipline. It's your attitude. It's things that sometimes aren't always fun. And our guys have bought into that. And to see them come together, last year's team was already really together. We just had to teach them how to win. This year's team was very loose and separated, I felt like, and it's come closer and closer and closer as the year's gone.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
And Sam?
Coach, you came in with 3 straight 5-win seasons, now back-to-back burst to the Sun Belt Football Championship game. You talked a lot about the buy-in to being uncomfortable with your team. How have some of the leaders really stepped up for you to have that buy-in in your first year, and then B, kind of bring those new guys into the fold this season?
Yeah, last year was like I said earlier. In some ways, last year was easier. Everybody talks about year one's hard. Year one was maybe in some ways easier to me. Year two was harder because we had a ton of new guys. I mean, it's like half the team's new. The thing that's made this year go the way it's gone is, man, our best players are our best leaders. Kamani Vidal, unbelievable player, 1,000 times better person and hard worker. Javon Solomon, unbelievable player, better person. Like so many of our best players are fantastic people. They're not good people, they're great people. And so I think when your best players are also your best leaders, they set the standard daily. And it's really easy for me and I coach those guys as hard as I coach anybody. Our staff does. And so when you see the guys that are going to be NFL players do every little thing the right way, it's really easy to look at the young guy and go, hey, you want to be great? Watch what he does. Like, makes that part of it really easy. I would like to see if I could keep Javon and Kamani here for like 10 years, so it'd make that, using the example really easy. But it's guys leaving your legacy. Those guys aren't going to be here forever, but what are people going to say about them? And like Jake Andrews, who was on our team last year, is the Patriots now. When Jake Andrews' name gets brought up in our building, man, people are like, man, hard worker, tough as nails, like great teammate. That's how you win. You get guys like that.
Thanks, Coach.
Go over to Jamal. Jamal.
Hey, John, apologies if you've already answered this question already, but this App State offense kind of puts up points, in the first quarter, puts pressure on the opposing teams. How critical is it going to be on Saturday for you all to kind of get off to a good start offensively?
Yeah, it's good to get off. It's important really in all three phases for us to play well early to make sure the game is really you don't want to let it get out of hand early, because they do start fast. They're good with tempo. They're good with speed. They're good with creating some unique things you haven't seen from them before each week. We got to play well on defense as well as offense to start the game. And I think starting fast is a huge proponent of giving yourself a chance to win. We've won a lot of different ways around here, and so I don't really ever get overly worried about the flow of the game. I do like starting fast, but I've seen us win games a bunch of different ways, so I don't feel like we have to necessarily win it by getting on the scoreboard first. Now, I'd like to. That makes winning easier. But I believe our guys will always find a way. We've got that mentality a little bit.
All right, thanks, Jamal. John, I saw your hand go back up. Do you have a follow-up? All right, well, if there's nothing else then, Coach, thanks for your time. Do appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.